Well, hello there. This is Glenn Greenidge and Tom Pope, and today we are discussing the City of Yes, which is an attempt by the city planning to provide affordable housing. Now, one of the key factors is how is that going to impact the community, the people who actually need affordable housing? Tom, you've got some comments, and
Well,
I'll leave.
first, the city of Yes really isn't attacking affordable housing. There's a whole list of things that it's trying to address, but in part of this, um, there is a conversation about affordable housing. Uh, I think I'm wondering why, if we're focusing a great deal on a big project like Yes, why the focus isn't totally affordable housing, um, low income housing. We have so many problems. Um, but when we hear, well, for example, we have a situation where Kathy Hochul's housing plan would give the state power to bypass local zoning. Okay, what does that mean? Uh, we've got local businesses that can now do things that they couldn't do before. Well, what does that do with any attempt to have some space designed for local housing or the community?
Well, I think you're pointing to the exact point is there's no cookie cutter approach to planning and development, and certainly if you're going to apply it across the board, which is the same thing I see with the city of Yes, the areas that are going to be most negatively impacted by those changes are the poorer communities, the poorer neighborhoods, which you're now looking at devaluating their housing. Um, let's say, for example, you're in a place that has a lot of single family. You're now going to be bringing, 5 or 6 story multi-family buildings into that particular community. So you're now disrupting that whole look of that and feel of that community. And again, it's not going to be um, in areas that are pristine. They're going to be in the lower economic communities are going to be negatively impacted. You know, I think the idea of adding units or converting office spaces to residents and so forth um, is a nice idea, but who's going to enforce it? How is it going to be enforced? And if the local planners are not involved and are keep their eye on it, what's going to happen is just going to be a mishmash of housing, and the bottom line is that affordable housing is probably not going to get implemented, or not much of it.
What you're saying about the impact on poorer communities, uh, why does this sound like Bob Moses again? I mean, uh, there's a description. This actually came from the Metro Focus. Let's see, we have an urban renewal that destroyed about 2,000 communities in the 50s and 60s, forced more than 300,000 families from their homes. This is because we had some great plans by Bob Moses to help the infrastructure of major highways. Great for transportation, but what about the families? Why did this have such an impact on low income people? And we're seeing the same thing now being described with Yes.
You're absolutely right. It's exactly the same kind of a thing because, again, you're going to do a blanket approach and it's going to land where it lands, and it's not necessarily going to land in the most impactful or um, area for the city. You know, there's a reason why developers haven't developed affordable housing, is because they only develop affordable housing when the pie is sweeter than just affordable housing. Affordable housing happens to be the added on to save money. And of course, it's usually 10 or 20%, if that much, of the overall development project. So the
Well, one
incentive,
recent example, I believe, was the Amazon plan in Astoria, which didn't go through.
right, right,
When the plan first was sounded out, we had a large section devoted to this affordable housing.
affordable housing. Yeah,
And suddenly, as the plan progressed, it became smaller and smaller.
exactly, exactly. The financial incentives for the developers um, doesn't they don't make any money. They don't get the return on their investment on affordable housing, and so therefore we really have to look at how do we change those dynamics economically, because if we want developers to focus on affordable housing, we've got to give them the right incentives to do that, and right now we don't have those right incentives
So,
in place.
so our society is catering to the people with the money rather than people.
rather than people rather than people and you know, and can't say it any other way. That is basically, you know, what's going on here.
When we take a look at what's been happening with crime, um, the frustration that people have that make them desperate enough to commit crime, that desensitizes them where they hurt other people. How is this happening? No one is asking why is this happening, but we take a look at the where's the economy? Well, everyone points to Wall Street. Wall Street is not the economy of the average person.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
The average person is being impacted in a different way. We can't proceed as a city if we don't change the format from the people with the money rather than aiding people.
Well, you know, we've talked about this in previous podcasts. um, Arizona did a study, and what they did is they built affordable housing and moved the homeless into these, and it actually stabilized them, because now they had a place to stay, they could operate from. They actually now could go out and get jobs. They had an address that they could send their benefits to, and so on and so forth. And there's something about having a place to stay that provides you mental and physical stability. And you pointed to it earlier. You know, we're post pandemic, where people have been shut in for a long period of time. Mental health is raging now, and we're now beginning to recognize it. And but part of that is having stable environments that you can call your own, that you're not, you know, bumping up against crime and other people and so on and so forth. Um, it's important for us as individuals.
How do we put this in play? Why, when the ideas came about for City of Yes, why doesn't the mayor reach out to someone from Arizona and find out some details? I mean, it's that simple. Is the power of the real estate industry so much that we can't think of people first?
Yeah, I think that may be part of the situation. I again, we're money driven, and unless there's funding that is available to put affordable housing, you know, one of the issues, you know, obviously in New York City is we don't have the space that Arizona had. where Arizona can go out and just build units, in a particular part of the city. We don't have that kind of space. So it has to be done in a way that is more strategic.
What
And
about all the vacant buildings?
well, again, if those vacant buildings and the zombie homes and some of the other vacant lots that are available, if they could be activated and purely made into affordable housing, I think that that would make a huge dent in the homeless and the housing that's needed for New York City.
So if we spend X amount of dollars to do this, we would probably save 5X in the long run.
Probably so, because you would be surprised at how many um, secondary instances of cost would be associated that we're now carrying that that certainly would be impactful. It's kind of, you invest in this money now for the future, and the savings keep coming back to you over a period of time. So rather than getting your money and having a return on investment in 5 to 10 years, as opposed to a longer period of time for your payback, I think it's critical that the the government, the city, um, takes a look at long term what can be put in place to incentivize development of affordable housing, and not just put a rubber stamp on it.
Um, I just wanted to zone in on using the term zone.
Yes.
The one of the ideas behind yes was the idea that we could avoid restrictive zoning that seems to hurt residents. However, the change would give the state the power to bypass local zoning. Now, how does that solve the problem? We still have the situation where the local zoning could be designed in such a way that the people are shut out.
Well, and I think that that's the criticality of it, because again, every community is different. Every community has its pluses and its minuses, and you've got to factor that into where do you put the affordable housing? How do you implement the affordable housing into those particular nuances of that particular neighborhood? Because you look around, Jamaica is different than Astoria, that's different than Forest Hills, that's different than Flushing, that's different than Great Neck. And so you have all of these um, variances in each community. And so you've really got to look at those communities locally, and not try to do a global fix for everything.
What would you say in closing?
In closing, City of Yes doesn't resolve all of the things that need to be resolved. I understand that some of the zoning changes have been around for 40 and 50 and 60 years that need to be updated. But having just a global look at it, a global swipe at it, is not really enough. We need a more detailed analysis to impact affordable housing.
If you like what you've seen, share with us your experiences. Get in touch with us. Tell us about what you've been doing in your community. Are you an activist? Are you thinking about this and maybe want to get in touch with an activist? Subscribe to us, like us on YouTube, Facebook, and let's form a community about this.
Well, our brand is community and social change. So please come, let us know what's happening in your community. Thank you.